Both government and industry experts say cloud computing is essential to the work agencies will do on AI. Securing the cloud isn't only critical for AI, though. C.T. Thomas is technical director for AI at Dell Technologies. I asked him about the intersection of cloud and security.
So as we look at the recent order from the administration, right, Task Force Lima has been formed for DoD and intelligence community. As a part of that, what we're starting to see, organizations have been making this multi-cloud journey. Great. The emphasis around zero trust and security has been pushed. Well, how does that also correspond with AI? So as you start to leverage these for decision making or just augmentation of staff, scalability, right? As I take the data is being collected, processed, how that's being stored, how to share that data, right? A lot of the organizations, a lot of the agencies, we're doing joint and collaboration. All these things have to be put in place, and having that governance policy put in place between organizations, that becomes most prevalent.
You very eloquently there, I think, laid out two big buckets for use of artificial intelligence, decision making, and you used the term augmentation of workforce. I really like that. Are those the biggest areas of use that you're seeing across agencies? And if so, is one maybe balancing out or outbalancing the other one?
Yes. So most organizations seems to be comfortable with using AI for things like logistics, back-end, non-critical decision-making and data. As you start to look at decision-making activities, that's where things are being done out of band. So doing it in parallel, making a copy of the data and making a recommendation to a human to make a final decision. Mm-hmm. So not letting the AI itself make the final determination, but using the AI to make a more intelligent or informed decision before the human ultimately makes a choice.
Is that a product, do you think, of the government's general aversion to risk, or is it due to some other issue with the data maybe, or some other thing that I didn't think of?
So I think it's a combination, right? There is a huge effort. A lot of organizations have massive amounts of data. They're collecting data all the time. But when we built these systems, it was just to connect and communicate with each other. It wasn't with the thought or pre-thought of leveraging this in a dynamic fashion and leveraging AI to do discriminative or generative AI in the background. That requires at times different system designs. What we'll see from a policy perspective is getting comfortable. I have to train these models, right? The government and government organizations or large organizations in totality have nuances in how they do business. They have vernacular things that are specific to just them. Even within Dell, we have acronyms, we have things that are specific to just us. No different than any other large enterprise. So those things have to be taken into consideration as it rolls out.
What do you see agencies doing, and what should they be doing to try to get ahead of some of the factors that you just described?
You're gonna have to lean in, right? Those nuances that we just talked about, there's no way for you to start when you need it, right? It's too late at that point. So I think experimentation, early R&D projects, start training and refining these models for your use and see what's your level of confidence and start growing that over a period of time. It has to learn what is good, what is bad, and that's in context to the individual customer.
I mentioned cloud at the beginning of this conversation. What are the infrastructure challenges that agencies may run into as they try to really scale some of the applications that you talked about earlier?
So the biggest thing right now what we're seeing is changes in current data center designs. For a lot of the AI use cases, I need to look at massive power consumption, which comes with heat. Most of the data centers weren't designed for that. So you're seeing this more of a distributed or federated architecture be adopted. That's where you're doing a lot of the dense computing or inferencing, maybe training of the models within your data centers, and then distributing that collection out and maybe doing some of the inferencing at the edge, right? Where the warfighter may be, or you have a critical asset such as an armored vehicle or aircraft, things like that. So I think that's going to help the government because we don't do everything in one centralized place.
Yeah, it's interesting you use the term edge because I think a lot of civilian agencies are picking up on that term that originated in the military, but applying it to the way that they compute wherever they need to compute. Is that a fair read on my part?
Exactly, right? Near edge, far edge, or the tactical edge. Prior Navy guy myself, so I'm used to being disconnected, right? Not a lot of enterprises or commercial businesses deal with being disconnected for hours or days at a time. That's a nuance that only the government has as a standard part of their operating procedure. So I think that that federated architecture will become more and more prominent, and you'll start to make these decisions or do the inferencing exactly where the data is being created versus sending that upstream or paying for an ingress, egress cost from a hyperscaler, right? And then the security comes into play, right? I don't want to move that data if I don't have to. So you truly have to think through the process and what your intent and goals are.
Does that change the way that organizations need to think about the compute power that's available at the edge too?
Most definitely, right? What all do I need to do? Real time, near real time data, I need to process that right then and there. It may have both equipment or personnel impacts. I can't wait for that to make a round trip that may be too little too late.